Hi, it's Dave Malkoff in Glasgow, Scotland at the UN climate conference known as COP26. The goal here is to deliver on the dream of the Paris Accord signed 6 years ago, which wants to keep the world's temperature from going above 1.5 degrees Celsius of change since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. Can that be done? Well, that we will have to wait around and see what happens in the next decade. But we have had some fascinating discussions with a lot of people from around the world. So I've gone through and picked the best bits so you can see kind of the people and the ideas that we have run into here. You are in charge of the climate change reaction in the country of the Maldives.
Yes, I am. I'm the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Technology.
I was talking to a climate expert yesterday who said that there is a plan to move the entire population to Sri Lanka, which is the closest nation to you. Is that really going to happen, or have we come to that?
What the IPCC report says is countries like the Maldives have just about 2 to 3 decades before the worst impacts of climate change hits us, unless we take action now. So I don't want to leave the Maldives. I don't want our country to relocate to another country, but the question is, if we fail to take action, I think that's the reality that we will have to face at the end of the day.
What happens around the world when we have this kind of mass migration?
We already know that migration has caused so many problems, so many political tensions. It's become a security issue. And not just that, migration and refugee status, we're talking about losing a country, a nation, a livelihood, a culture, a way of life. And I don't think that's what we should be aiming to. Rather, what we should be aiming at is taking action on climate change to prevent something like that.
Let's talk about how to not waste energy. Do we waste a lot of energy?
You're absolutely right. This is the biggest problem. 3/4 of the energy that is produced is actually wasted either by wrong behaviors or by inefficient systems. So you have to represent the world like a stupid person in a bathtub with a leak in the bathtub, and instead of solving the leak, the guy adds more water by opening the tap wide open. And this is the situation of today. So imagine all these technologies to make the world more energy efficient, make the world more profitable, cleaner, safer. If we save all this energy with the new systems that are available, all the rest of the energy we need can be produced only by renewable sources.
Michaela Loach, I am a Jamaican British activist. I'm a claimant on a court case against the UK government, so I'm taking the UK government to court over the huge amounts of public money that they give to North Sea oil and gas companies. So I was talking about that, about the Camboy oil field the UK government are trying to push through, about transformation, total liberation, black liberation and creating a new world.
Do you think that these lawsuits will be successful? Do you think it can do anything to change people's minds about the way that energy is used around the world?
Absolutely. I think that legal cases have already been shown to cause huge amounts of change throughout the world.
What would you say to conservative voters in Texas and all throughout America who see this conference and they kind of roll their eyes at it?
I totally understand that. That's why we want to bring some sanity to it and show that there are more rational ways of looking at environmentalism.
Does that actually mean that coal is going to be a fuel of the past?
Well, I think everybody sees where the direction is going. The market has indicated where they are going in terms of coal. The United States wants to see an acceleration of movement toward clean rather than fossil fuels. So I think that the consensus around this is very, very exciting. That we see a huge consensus around deploy clean and move in the direction of clean rather than fossil fuels.
So we're standing here with Brazilian indigenous climate activist Juma Sampaio. It's actually dangerous to be a climate activist in Brazil.
Ainda mais pelo fato de ser jovem, de ser mulher.
As being a woman, being an activist.
Então, o Brasil é do país.
Brazil is a country that kills all the activists, also the indigenous population. So it's really difficult. So that's why we're here, because it's not easy. And what we do,
para nós, povos indígenas, é para você.
It's not only for us; it's for everybody.
Então,
so this responsibility is also we have to share. this weight doesn't need to be only ours.
Right.
Here's the problem with electric vehicles. They use electricity, and that electricity sometimes, in some cases most of the time, comes from either gas-fire power plants or coal-fire power plants. And renewables are coming online, but you're still going back to the power source being fossil fuels.
So the great news is that it's still better to electrify than to use and burn fossil fuels. So for example, one of the main messages that we need to get out there is that this decade we have to do many things, but we have to do two very well and very fast. One, we have to decarbonize electricity, move from fossil fuels to renewables. We have to do that. And two, we have to use electricity instead of gasoline and diesel. And you don't have to wait until the electricity is clean. You already have benefits from switching, even if the electricity is not renewable.
Just because the oil isn't being refined into gasoline?
So because an electric car is more efficient, because it doesn't have tailpipes, so you already save a lot of tailpipe emissions. So the great news is that universities, think tanks, for example, the International Council for Clean Transportation, ICCT, have plenty of studies that show that even if your electricity is not yet renewable, you still benefit from starting to electrify transportation. So we don't have, in other words, we don't have to wait until all the electric system is renewable in order to start electrifying.
How are things going in Sudan right now? I read a lot in the news, and it seems like it would be very tough to be in your home country.
Yeah, there is a military coup, and all of the cabinet right now, either under house arrest or in jail. And we still don't have a government, and the situation is not really good. It's not safe. You can get killed for no reason, and the internet is blocked since the 25th, but also phone calls, so no one can call, but also no internet connection.
So who are you negotiating for when you're here?
The other 7 billion people in the world, because Sudan is only 40 million, and there are other creatures also that doesn't have a voice, and they need to be here, and climate change is for killing them.
Support climate justice, support the people, all the different organizations that are here. It's just amazing, and all ages as well.
What's it like to see all these people here and think the way that you think?
I think it's amazing. It's actually so uplifting. I mean, you can never really imagine how many people are actually going to be here until it's on the day, and it's amazing. I'm honestly surprised at how many people have come out despite the weather as well.
Even in the rain.
Yeah. Well, that's Glasgow, isn't it? So we had to expect it.
The Greenland ice sheet actually was mostly in balance in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, but it's now lost ice every year since 1998 at an accelerating rate. And the coast there is transforming as the ice sheet shrinks, but more importantly, hundreds of millions of people around the globe are potentially feeling that influence as it transforms the coasts in low and mid latitudes. So losing ice from Greenland really shows up directly on our shores. We already see it happening, for example, in the US.
So we're talking about places like Miami and even the coast of Texas, southern Texas, is getting a lot of the sea level rise and subsidence. So the whole world's connected, just one ocean. So it doesn't matter that it's in Greenland or Iceland. It's one world. We only get this one planet.
Yeah, absolutely. It is connected, and counterintuitively, actually, the effects of losing ice in Greenland are felt most strongly in places further away from it.
Our land is fast disappearing. Tuvalu is literally sinking. And sea level rising is caused by global warming and climate change. Even though Tuvalu is located thousands and thousands of miles away from the Arctic, but we are all interconnected as a global community of oceans, and Tuvalu is a small dot in the Pacific Ocean, and barely 2 meters above the sea level. So any increase in the sea level would adversely affect Tuvalu. There is no politics to this. We are living climate change in our daily lives. We see it everywhere. The land is fast disappearing. We are literally sinking. Our food security is being threatened in terms of the agricultural crops and livestock, fisheries resources and oceans resources are severely depleting because of the impact of climate change.
Speaker Pelosi, we're from the Weather Channel. Tell me what your main goal is here today.
Our main goal is to listen, to learn, and to believe that we can get the job done.
Wow, some fascinating discussions. And those discussions actually lead to more stories that you will see right here on the Weather Channel and on Pattern. So that wraps it up for us here in Glasgow, Scotland. It has been a really, really productive and tiring event for all of us here, but we've all got this one goal of bringing these stories to you. So for our whole team here on the ground in Scotland, that is producer Trish Ragsdale, photographer Brad Reynolds, and meteorologist Stephanie Abrams. I am Chief Environmental Correspondent Dave Malkoff. For everyone here and everyone back at the World Headquarters in Atlanta, thanks for watching, and stay tuned. Stories are coming up. We are always working on them here.